Okay, I want to take you through some tools, and we've talked about the tools a little bit, but how this all fits together. So this is our final drive casing. We've already replaced all the bearings in the pinion gear. We've set the torque, set new seals, and set the torque on the pinion gear, and we've mounted the housing in our tool here that we've built. Just a frame that we built out of too heavy a plate of steel, actually, but it works really well. You can turn your final drive casing at any angle. There's also space to hold the facing of it. We also put in some holes or a hole to help you drive bearings in and out when necessary. I actually use that to press the bearings onto the pinion gear. So this is our partially assembled housing, and now our next step is to assemble the ring gear and set the backlash. And so we have a shim in the bottom here. This particular model, the shim goes in. There's different, the later models with tapered roller bearings, the shim will actually go on the other side. But in this case, this is our shim. So, and the shim is going to allow us to set the gap, the lash within the ring, between the ring gear and the pinion, to determine how much backlash we have. So here is our, here's our ring gear. This is the inner race for that bearing we just looked at a moment ago. And there's a large outer bearing that goes on here. We've replaced both of these bearings. We've replaced all the bearings and seals in this model. But we get to this point where we can't go any further without some sort of way to measure some of these fine gaps. So in this particular case, we place the ring gear in, and so we've got that in place. And so now our ring gear bearing brace that we talked about earlier is the next tool that goes in. And so we're going to set that in here. And if I can get a good view here. So we line up the holes on the brace with the holes in the case for the cover. And so we just take some of the cover bolts and put them in here to hold it in place, and we'll tap it in just a little bit here to tap it down, because what we're really trying to do is see that movement in the ring gear. This tool is designed to take that out, because with that movement and the movement that you have in the pinion, which we'll address in a minute, you can't really get an accurate measurement. So so we'll just keep moving here. We'll tighten these down quickly. And let me get a hammer off the hammer rack. My dad always said I was dumb as a rack of hammers, so I went and built a rack for my hammers. Just a slight tap to seat that in. When this was manufactured at Androids 3D, it was designed to set within this seat so that it squeezes this bearing and takes all the play out of it. So it's a very tight fit. And we also have these inserts here, these brass inserts, and there are 3 of them, are there for a couple of purposes. One, it's a mounting point for a dial indicator to help us with the measurement, but also when it comes time to take the brace back off, it allows us to use these 2 bolts and just screw them in, and they'll actually go in. Won't take much more than a tight finger squeeze and a good hard turn to pop that back out of its place. But it's really tight otherwise, and you don't want to pry it. This is fiber, and you don't want it to take a different shape or get warped in any way. So that's a real nice feature that Androids 3D and George Siminoff built in for us. Oops, wrong tool. So just, it doesn't have to be tight. Just kind of cinch it down. And you can see it kind of fits into place there. Okay, and so there's our brace. So that's the first step. So now we've got this, so it won't wiggle back and forth. But we do have one other problem, and that is, well, I can feel some backlash. I can also feel the pinion turning. You can see the pinion moving, and we want to take all of that slop out as well. So that's where this pinion holder comes in really handy again. And if you recall, we use this for removing and installing this pinion gear shaft out. And this nut, it has 165 pounds torque spec on this particular final drive. And you need the ability to hold that in place while you tighten and loosen it. But this also works great for holding that pinion gear steady. So if you listen carefully, I'll shut up for a second, you can hear the backlash. So we've got a little bit in there. The spec on this is 0.01 millimeters or 39 thousandths. So this tool really helps give you the accuracy that you need. And again, it's 3D Androids 3D built that to a real tight spec, so it really helps a lot. So our next little trick here is to put, we got to do it right side up, is to put our flange tool on here, our measurement tool. And so this is what we're going to measure against. And so this just fits on there. These nuts, these 3 nuts, and you notice I only have 2. I told you earlier I have dropsy. I dropped one, and somewhere in here that other nut is on the floor. But I'll be darned if I can find it. It'll show up someday. But these don't have to be terribly tight. If you have strong fingers, that's all it takes. I've liked to just give them just a little snug with the wrench. Nothing too extreme. Again, you don't want it. It's fiber, so it's not necessary to deform the fiber at all. And so now you have your measurement tool in place. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can hear it, I'm sure. So it feels like maybe we got a little too much lash in there. We'll just tap that down a little bit. Okay, so the next step to this is placing our dial indicator in and figuring out the best place to mount this. So we're going to mount it in one of these brass inserts in the back, and we'll set the brass insert, or set the mount into the insert. And we went back and forth about what might be the best mechanism for this, and decided to go with this method rather than we had seen some designs that had a metal plate or a permanent mount that you could use a magnet mounted, or had a stem, but we thought this was more versatile and would give us, depending on your measurement tools you have, give you a lot of different options. So that is the way we decided to go with it. And so now we need to drop our tool in place. I think we gotta get her a little more square than that. Okay, this part's going to be edited out, but I got to set you down for just a second. Okay, sorry about that. So we're back to our spot here. Just in case you're curious, you catch glimpses. This is the Portugal GP or Grand Prix MotoGP. So anyway, we've got our tool mounted here, and just adjust it to. Okay, we're just making contact there, and actually I don't have to zero out the indicator. Well, it's slightly off. Okay, so we're at 0 there. And so if we move the final drive, you can see that we have just about 5 thousandths or 50 thousandths of backlash. So our spec is 39 thousandths to 78 thousandths. So we're right in the middle of our spec. So there's no need to make any change to this. It's spot on. If we were to change it, and this is the shim that I showed you earlier in the bottom of the case, we would replace that depending on which way we needed to go. If we had too much backlash, we would put a thinner shim in, and if we had too little, we would put a thicker shim in. And the reason for that is a thinner shim is going to close the gap between that ring gear and that pinion gear. A thicker shim is going to raise the gap. So a thinner shim means the teeth are tighter, less play, less back and forth play. Thicker shim is just the opposite. So this is what these tools allow us to do. So just quickly, before we go on to the next phase, I just want to kind of recount, because this is one of the instances where we use all 4 of the tools that we've manufactured and have available if anyone's interested. We used the flange measurement tool. We used the ring gear bearing brace. We used the pinion gear brace, and we also use the mounting block. And all these are available from Android 3D. And the other side of it too, at the shop here, we have these tools, and we're more than happy to rebuild your final drive for you if you so desire. So that's the end of this. So the next step, we're going to move on in our next video, and we're going to look at this cover that goes on, and there are also shims involved in the cover that goes in here. We'll replace this seal, and we'll take the measurements for the new shims using most of these tools again, or some of these tools again, and we'll shim that up to get our proper end play in there. So anyway, that's the end of this segment. Thank you for watching, and again, don't hesitate to reach out to Androids 3D, George Semenoff, a masterful engineer, or myself, Dave Hostetter, here at the shop. Thank you.